This clip is to talk about interface classes and how they're implemented in Visual Basic. In Unit 6 there's a lot of information on inheritance, and you can think of inheritance as a subclass extending the functionality of a superclass. It's making it in a way more specific. In some circumstances when you're writing code, what you actually want to do is to remove all the specific stuff and focus on common traits within class definitions, so that it allows you to deal with them all in a similar sort of a way. If, for example, you think about on Amazon, you've got you perhaps have behind the scenes a class that represents a book, a class that represents a video, and a class that represents a pair of shoes. As far as when it comes to you doing your checkout is concerned, you don't really need to know all the mechanics of the dispatch and all that sort of thing. All you need to know is a brief summary of what the class represents and the price. So in that case you'd want to ignore all the specific information and focus on the relevant common stuff between the classes. So to illustrate this, I have set up a sort of a fake, a sort of remote control type thing. So at the moment all you can do is turn the TV on and turn the TV off. I've also got a CD player which you can change the tracks on and set random shuffle on. So they're defined within my project. I'll just show you the classes themselves. Oops. There we go. Okay. So they're defined with different fields for different classes because they're implemented in completely different ways. Obviously a TV does things that CD players can't do. The key point here is that line there, the implements iResettable. Now iResettable is what's known as an interface class. If I just quickly go and we have a look at that. An interface class has method definitions, or as you can see here, property definitions, but it doesn't have any code behind it, so they're sort of a skeleton structure. Each thing that is of type iResettable needs to include both of these things. So I've said I would like my TV to be resettable, and I want my CD player to be resettable. So I've used this implements keyword to say that. And basically what happens is, as you can see down here, I declared the two skeleton, well, the skeleton method and skeleton property in my interface class, and then all I need to do is have, as long as I've got this implements iResettable reset method on. So each class that implements my iResettable interface needs to implement these two things, but how it does it is completely different. So as you can see here, with my TV, it resets my current channel and it turns the TV off. The status that is returned is just a string, and again it's whatever I think is appropriate as the developer of the TV class. We have a look at my CD player class. There's a lot more in here, so you've got a lot more properties. Still implements that iResettable in the same way, and there's our implementation there. But again, it does something completely different. So the status it returns is slightly more complicated, and it does something slightly different as part of its reset method. The advantage to this is within my form I've got my two fields, so you're familiar to defining things like this. So these are two different objects, one's a CD player, one's a TV. What I've also got is I've got a list of all of my devices, and I've defined that as including anything that's iResettable. This sort of works in a similar way to inheritance in a way, in that I could create a list. If I had two CD players, I could do it as a list of CD player. iResettable sort of lives above the CD player. What it allows me to do, if you have a look here in my constructor, because I know that both the TV and the CD player both implement the iResettable class, I can add them both to the same list. They both have the same type as far as the list is concerned, which means that when I come to clicking my reset button, then I can loop around the all devices list, and I treat them in the same way, even though they're completely different classes and their implementation is different, and the reset method in both cases does completely different things. Because I'm implementing my interface class here, then I can treat them with the common information that I want to be common. I can exploit that so that it makes my coding slightly easier. So as I was saying in the Amazon example, when you get to the checkout, you would in theory possibly have an interface that would have the type of the object and the price, so it makes it a lot easier to code around what you want to do. So that's just a really quick and very basic introduction to interface classes. There's obviously quite a lot more to it than that, but I hope that's made you be a bit more interested in what sort of things can be achieved. This isn't part of the course scope of MT264, so the usual caveat, do be very careful and don't do this in your assignments, but I thought it would be interesting sort of background reading, I suppose, to extend what you've learnt so far. So I hope that's useful. Thank you very much for watching.